Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
Hopkinsville, Kentucky, we're an ethanol plant.
Yes, sir.
You can't turn us into a hydrogen economy in 10 years or less. You can't turn us into an electric economy in 5 years or less. What do you want to do this year? Well, ethanol, corn ethanol, is something we're already doing. We can do more of it.
The big bins are 660,000 bushel. That's roughly enough for us to make it about 20, 21 days. But basically, we'll bring the corn, whole kernel corn, over from the elevator.
So wait, that's the elevator over here?
That's right. So we'll receive the whole kernel corn. We'll bring it over here and grind it up. We grind it up, we heat it up to about 185 degrees, add some enzymes and some yeast.
Alcohol, corn. Can you eat it?
It's food grade.
It's alcoholic. Yeah. Food grade, non-toxic fuel for America.
Corn ethanol's got its limitations. How much corn can you grow? Well, how much corn do you need to grow? How much land is it going to take? How much land do you think it needs to take today? You actually realize that we grow more corn on less acres than we did 10 years ago. Like I said, 8 to 9% of the U.S. fuels market today. Nobody else can make that claim that we're already in the marketplace. We're already competing straight up with what petroleum products can do.
So basically we've got these 4 fermenters that they've got the corn in it at all times. It takes about 52 hours to make what we had out there.
Yeah.
Constantly filling in one batch at a time. When the batch is complete, send it to the beer well out to distillation. You saw how we had the chunks in there?
Yeah.
And you had the alcohol, you had a little bit of CO2. So what you got to do is you got to take that through, send it through a distillation columns to separate the solids from the liquids and then the alcohol from the water. So I'll show you that.
It smells like corn, it smells like beer, yeast.
This whole plant is run from this control room. From where Chris is sitting, Chris will be the lead operator. He'll be in here at all times. He's watching. You've got control over everything on here from pHs, temperatures. You know, if you're not running hot enough, you need to open this steam valve up. And you can do all that from right here. You can control the pHs, the temperatures, you can control flows. Right now he's got 389 gallons a minute. You can grab that valve and open it up, you get a whole lot more flow. You got pressure controls. You got control over everything in the plant. Every valve out there he can control from the DCS. Opening and closing valves, starting pumps, shutting off motors, starting up fans, whatever you need to do.
Back to that CO2 question. If you want to have carbon dioxide as a pollutant, and that's how you want to define it, what about a renewable CO2? When I say renewable, the CO2 that we use when you burn a carbohydrate from a biological source, ethanol, biodiesel, that was captured from the air the previous season when that material, as a organic material, corn, you grow the corn, it absorbs CO2 from the air to grow the corn. That cellulosic material, that carbohydrate material, is converted to a fuel, then you burn the next year. So it's a cycle of CO2 that doesn't add to the atmosphere.
Yeah.
That's defensible if you're trying to limit carbon dioxide pollution.
Yeah.
Whereas a petroleum or coal or natural gas takes fossil fuel that was sequestered millions of years ago and puts it in the air today. So we got one up on them.
So it's a renewable energy.
It's a renewable. That's why we call renewable fuel. There's another thing, we grow the fuel each year, but we also capture the CO2 and reuse it.
So you get the corn, you break it up into the store. There's 3 parts to the kernel, right?
Yep.
How do you break it up? It's just...
Come in here and I'll show you.
Okay.
We've got a hammer mill that grinds it down into a flour.
It looks like
just
like wheat. corn.
Yeah, it's just running it through a
That's just like cornmeal or
cornmeal. It is cornmeal.
cornmeal.
No difference in cornmeal. Just takes corn, run it through a hammer mill. Kind of a coarse grind. Like I say, you want to heat that up, 185 degrees. Then you got to add some water to it. Add some enzymes, cool it back down, put yeast in it, and let it ferment. A kernel of corn, like you say, there are 3 phases of it. The only thing we're going after is the starch. Everything that's left over, we make into a cattle feed. Do you have any DDG in here? You know how you were feeling that gritty stuff in the beer well?
Yeah.
We take it and we dry it, and it winds up looking like that. It's a high-value cattle feed.
So it's a byproduct.
That's one of the byproducts. That's really a co-product. Sometimes, at certain times, you're making as much money off that as you are off the ethanol. So we treat it as a co-product. Pay real close attention to it. Try and keep it good for our farmers. You see right out here, they've got 3 grades of alcohol they're testing, making sure everything's in spec. Simple hydrometers. We've got fancier tests to measure the exact amount of moisture that's in the alcohol back there. Very tight controls over what we're allowed to ship and what we can't ship.
Does the FDA come here?
We're not FDA, no. We're
EPA.
Yeah, we'll get EPA for sure. The Kentucky Feed Council, they come in once a month, sample this. Of course, we've got all sorts of the EPA regulations, stuff like that.
Of course, a couple years ago was that food for fuel. Oh, the corn's being used and we're starving people in other countries, and we need to get that food to people so they don't starve. We're going to use it for fuel to burn our cars. Well, that's a misuse of the facts. Yes, corn can be part of the food supply. Humans don't eat very much of our corn directly. Okay, if you have like sweet corn, that's not what we have. Field corn, very little actually goes directly to humans to eat. Mostly as an animal feed. Okay, we take 2/3 of that kernel of corn and turn it into a fuel. 1/3 of it goes right back in the food supply as distiller's grain. So we take a pathway where we use actually the carbohydrate portion, the starch in that kernel of corn. We take that portion that's not got a whole lot of food value. Starch is a pretty cheap and easy access raw material for food. We take that starch portion and turn that into a fuel, and all the rest of the nutrients, the food value in that kernel of corn, is still in the food supply.
Okay, so after the stuff I tasted on my hand, it was, okay, that's like, how long did it take to?
It takes 52 hours to get to that point.
52 hours and 12% alcohol.
12 to 13%, that's
so
right.
So then do you filter it?
I can take you out here, we'll show you the distillation columns. Like I said, basically you've got 3 phases. You've got that stuff, in what you tasted. You've got that stuff, the solids.
Yeah.
Then you've got alcohol, and then you've got water. So the first stage is going to get the solids out. Drop it out, spin it down, and put it in a dryer. I'll take you out and show you that part of it right now.
So what's this stuff?
This, when they get their samples, they just dump it in here. That's a mix of all sorts of stuff.
Fermented corn, everything.
See the oil over here?
Yeah. Corn oil.
Yes, we recover a lot of that oil also.
Is this food grade still?
No.
So it's toxic?
No, it's not toxic. The cattle can eat it. It's not human food grade, but yeah, it's cattle feed grade. Except this has been sitting here long enough, there's probably some bacteria growing on it.
A lot less toxic than an oil refinery, huh?
Yeah, you could probably get away with having that in the Gulf of Mexico. Might have a couple of drunk fish, but that'd be about it.
Couple drunk fish.
How's your items to the hard head? Degrees from this point on. You're just getting it in there, agitating it, stirring it up real good, get it mixed up.
Where do you get the enzymes?
Right here.
Right here?
It's a bacterial fermentation that we probably are capable of doing, but we don't. We buy it from a freaking company.
So phase 2, you guys filter the corn?
Yeah, on the distillation side. After we're done with the fermentation part of it, we go through a distillation.
that's where it gets really hot.
Yes. And that's what causes the phase the temperature separation is what causes the phase separation. It allows you to extract the solids and then separate the water from the alcohol using the azeotrope. There's a different boiling point for water than alcohol. Alcohol boils about 175 degrees, water at 212. So as you bring the temperature up slowly, the alcohol will boil off and the water will fall back out. Just by utilizing the boiling points.
So you want to keep the alcohol?
Yes.
So it boils off and you can re-evaporate it?
Yes. All this is contained, nothing vents to atmosphere. Contained goes to a plate frame exchanger that cools it off, turns it back into a liquid.
But without any, it's just pure.
It's 190 proof at that time.
190 proof?
Yes. Then we have a molecular sieve. It's kind of like an air dryer. It's got a desiccant in it. You superheat the alcohol, send it through the bed. The balls that are in the sieves have holes in them. The holes are 3 angstrom. They're small enough that water will stick in them. But alcohol, which is a bigger molecule, has to pass through it. It's porous so the water will stick and let the alcohol pass. You come out with 200 proof.
200 proof.
That's right. I'll show you distillation now.
This is all ethanol, water?
Yeah, none of this will be ethanol. The only ethanol will be on this pad, and that's why we're having to shoot it over here. That's where you're not allowed to have any combustibles whatsoever. Not allowed to have any cell phones, no radios, batteries, certain wristwatches, none of that.
It's highly flammable.
So see these 3 shorter bottles over here? That's what I referred to as the mole sieve. That's where you put the 190 proof in. The water gets stuck in the balls, whereas the alcohol's a bigger molecule, can pass through. That's what brings it up to 200 proof. The solids fall out and go into our dryer over here. So the second column gets liquid in it. As you go up that second column, the temperature is lower and lower. It's hot on bottom, cooler on top. So by the time you get to the top, only alcohol can pass out. All your water falls out the bottom, it's recycled back in the plant. We don't discharge any of our water to the city sewer. All of it's recycled back in the plant. So the solids that fall out of this first column, we dry it down into what you were looking at in there. That's with this dryer.
What do you guys use natural gas for?
I'll show you. There you go.
Really hot. Oh my God.
Mash up to 180 degrees.
Wow. Hot over here.
Any of the chemicals that are released in fermentation, collected in a blower, goes in here. It's a thermal oxidizer. Heats it up to 1700 degrees. Oxidizes absolutely everything, so what's going out the stack is clean. Absolutely no vapors escape this plant. All goes through this TO, burned at incinerated at a high enough temperature that it's good. It doesn't hurt the environment whatsoever.
And you guys use natural gas?
This is natural gas fired, yes sir.